On a scale from 1 to 5, 6.
What's up? What it is? What it do? How y'all feeling this evening? I am your boy, your host, Alan C. And welcome to a brand new edition of Al You Buggin' this week. As you see on the ticker, follow Al You Buggin' on X and Instagram at Al_U_buggin'. Just some housekeeping tips real quick before we get started. So each and every Sunday night, follow me on X, and I will be live tweeting the Sunday night games. And I'm going to figure out a schedule to do this throughout the whole playoffs and, of course, the Super Bowl for football. So if you want to know my thoughts as we're watching the Sunday night game, definitely go ahead and follow me on X. You can follow that now. Posting articles on my X as well. So you can follow that and also follow on Instagram because there's stories on there as well. All right, y'all. Let's get it started. Last night we had the first game this season that didn't have any touchdowns. Defensive struggle game, if you will. As the Rams beat the 49ers 12-6 last night. I want to send a good shout out to Dre Greenlaw. His first game back since he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl. I know the way he tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl, he was just he had to be down on himself because they were winning. They looked dominant on defense. He was just hyped and amped. And just like that, his Super Bowl moment was taken from him as he tore his Achilles. So this is his first game back, and he looked like he didn't miss a beat. He was dominant in the beginning. I don't know what happened to him as he was pulled from the game, but their defense was dominant with him in the game next to Fred Warner. And of course, they had Hufanga back against the Bears, and he looked pretty good again against the Rams. On the opposite side, the Rams played as a unit. Matthew Stafford struggled in the first half to make any type of completions to get going. Their run game even struggled in the beginning of the first half to get going. So they came out in the second half. They ran the ball. Cooper Kupp finished this game with no catches, no stats pretty much, besides just good blocks downfield. Puka Nacua did his thing catching the ball. Last night. So Puka Nacua is looking like, after Cooper Kupp had his breakout season, a couple years back when they won the Super Bowl and he had the Triple Crown, Puka has really been taking over. Last night, he had 7 catches and 97 yards. Again, nobody scored a touchdown, but he had a 51-yarder. Had the 51-yard catch last night. So Puka is playing pretty well since he's been back from injury. The Rams have played pretty well since he's been back from injury as well. They've won 7 of the last 9 games. So the Rams is looking like they are fighting for this top spot. Or not top spot. Well, yeah, they are fighting for the top spot in the NFC West. And they could potentially be wild card team. Trying to chase down their 1 game behind the Commanders for the 7th spot in the NFC. So I think it's the 7th spot. If they get in at the 7th seed, they could definitely be the most scary 7th seed in the playoffs we've seen thus far. I don't think any of the 7th seed teams since they expanded back to 7 seeds, back in COVID times. I want to say 2020, they had 7 playoff teams. That's when that started becoming a thing. And the 7th seed has yet to win a playoff game. I definitely think they could take out the number 2 seed, whoever that may be, in the first round if they get it. Well, maybe not the number 2 seed, but speaking of the number 2 seed, right now, that's currently Philly. And my neighbors to the north, my birds to the north, birds of a feather flock together. What's going on up there, y'all? What is really going on up there? Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown. I think it's much ado about nothing, really, honestly speaking. They asked, if you don't know the story, they asked AJ Brown, with the Eagles being on a 9-game winning streak, you guys look good. What can be worked on for this offense? And he blatantly gave a one-word answer that people ran with this whole week: passing. Now, that's not saying that he needs more targets. He didn't say Jalen Hurts is holding back the team. He hasn't said that, Kellen Moore's not doing a good job calling plays. He simply said passing. And the statistics have shown that during this 9-game run, the one thing that has hurt them is Jalen Hurts passing more than 30 times. Now, again, I think that number is skewed. And I'm saying that for the simple fact that that number is always skewed when it comes to teams that prefer to run the ball. I say that because if you take a team like the Ravens and they say, well, Lamar doesn't win games when he's throwing the ball 35 times. Well, the Ravens' number one priority is to run the ball. And the reason he's throwing 30 to 35 times is because we're trailing. So it's not necessarily the cause of the Ravens and the teams that we're talking about now, the Eagles, that Jalen or Lamar can't do it, or, they're doing it, so that's why they're failing. Quite the opposite. The Ravens and the Eagles are trailing in games where their quarterbacks are asked to put on a little bit more of the muscle and throw the ball. So I think, this whole AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts saga, drama, it's not T.O. and Donovan McNabb, y'all. They're not going to be feuding for 20 years. They're not going to, act like they don't like each other next year or whatever the years mean. I think they're good. I think he literally just answered it with a one-word answer, and writers have to make their stories. So if you giving me a one-word answer, why got to fill in the rest of the words? I can't turn in a article with one word. I asked AJ Brown, what could be fixed? He said passing. That's not an article at all. So you don't give any details. That gives the writer, in their mind, license to take in what that means. And the interpretation of that can fall either way. And like I said, I don't put any stock into it. They got a big game coming up this weekend. We'll talk about it. And I don't see them slowing down, not one iota on this. So there's much to do about nothing. Shout out AJ Brown. Shout out Jalen Hurts. Shout out Philly, man. Like I said, they're the neighbors to the north. Birds of a feather flock together. I'm not mad that the last time my Ravens took the field, it was against the Eagles and they beat us. Nah, I ain't one of them type of fans. I knew it was going to be a challenge when we played. So shout out to them. Shout out. Speaking of shout out, Bill Belichick is back coaching. No, he's not in the league. Bill Belichick is coaching college football. It's funny to say. It's funny to hear. Bill Belichick is coaching college football. He's been given a 4-year contract with North Carolina, University of North Carolina, to try to see if they can do some things. They're going from 73-year-old Matt Brown to 72-year-old Bill Belichick. But just like college coaches, when they go to the NFL and it's a culture shock, I think the exact opposite is true for Bill Belichick coming from the NFL, going back or going down to college. He's never coached at the college ranks. And what we've known from Bill Belichick over the years, during his 20-year dynasty, is quote unquote the Patriot way. These is 17-year-old kids, 16-year-old kids that Bill has to convert into not only football players, but into men, and to do things the professional way, which I believe he can do. But he got to go shop for the groceries. And I've always said, Bill Belichick, the GM, got Bill Belichick, the coach, fired. So Bill Belichick has to pick, leaders of the future. Now, you can go shopping in the transfer portal, and he's going to need a quarterback out of the transfer portal. This was kind of a transition year with Drake May moving on to the NFL and transversely moving on to New England without Bill. They need to bring in another quarterback that's of that ilk in North Carolina and get some wide receivers. But I gotta trust that Bill could see high school talent and develop that into college talent. Like I said, Bill Belichick, his drafts were good in the first round, but lacked depth. I mean, Devin Asiasi, pretty much out of the league. Only depth pick I can think of was Gronk, Hernandez, Tom Brady. That was, a depth pick. This is pretty much what you're going to do trying to go to North Carolina. You have to hit these guys that are quote-unquote depth picks, because the top athletes aren't going to North Carolina. I don't see you out there on the recruiting trail out hustling Ryan Day, Dabo Sweeney, Deion Sanders, these top recruiting guys that, these kids want to play for. I don't see Bill Belichick, 72-year-old, sitting in your living room talking about the Patriot way or the Tar Heel way and recruiting kids off of structure. Like, I don't see that. It's very interesting. And I know Bill can coach the game of football. That's not what this is about. I want to see, like I said, Bill, the GM, got Bill, the coach, fired. Bill, the scout, Bill, the recruiter, Bill, the recruiter might get Bill, the coach, fired, because no one has any questions about his coaching. It's all about recruitment, talent, retaining talent, and getting these kids to be not kids. And come on, they're freaking kids. They're, like I said, he's going to be talking to 16 and 17-year-olds and then 18, 19-year-olds in the portal to try to get them to come over. They're pretty much kids. You still got the team behind you. So, I mean, shout out to Bill Belichick. The ACC is not that strong. There are teams that they have to go up against coming up on their schedule next year, since they already have that released. It is not he can get 7, 8 to 10 wins out of this team easily next year. Let me see if I can find. So just going off of their schedule that they have online and teams that they have to play, You have TCU, you have Charlotte, you have Richmond, you have UCF, you have Clemson, you have Duke, you got Stanford, you got Virginia, California, Syracuse, NC State, and Wake Forest. I can easily see Bill winning 7 to 10 of these games next year. If he does what he has to do in the transfer portal and with recruiting, late recruiting, because he just got there. So I think the first year will be a success. I really do. But if you're talking get into the top 12 playoff type of success, I don't see that. I see bowl game in his future with North Carolina. But man, shout out to him. Shout out to the Heisman hopefuls. I didn't even have that ready to go, but let's just talk about the Heisman list since we're already talking about college. Going to New York or arriving in New York tonight, Dillon Gabriel, quarterback out of Oregon. Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. Travis Hunter, wide receiver / corner out of Colorado. And I believe there was one more. One more guy that's there. Out of them. Don't really have it. Yeah, Ashton Jeanty, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, excuse me. Pardon, how I forget his name. Cam Ward, University of Miami quarterback. So those 4 finalists are in New York right now for the Heisman Trophy ceremony tomorrow. Ashton Jeanty already won the Maxwell Award, which is pretty much given out to the best offensive player. And he got the Doak Walker Award, which is given out to the best running back. So shout out to Ashton Jeanty. And then Travis won, and I think he's the first person to win Chuck Badnarik for the best defensive player and the Biletnikoff for being the best wide receiver. I don't understand how you got left off the Thorpe Awards, but, he did get best defensive player. That's just insane to me that he could be, labeled the best defensive player, but not the best player in his position on defense. But his position on wide receiver on offense, he's the best. I think, man, shout out to Dillon Gabriel. I think he's going to be a good. We're going to start talking about the prospects coming out in the draft as we get closer to the playoffs, NFL playoffs. But shout out to Dillon Gabriel. I do like him. Shout out to Cam Ward. I do like him. But my pick, I think, is between Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter for the Heisman. And if I had to give a pick, it would be Travis if I had to vote. I don't know if the rest of the league or the rest of the players that's voting on it see it the same way. But it's normally voted on by the past Heisman winners. So, shout out to them. That's going to be in the building tomorrow. Bo Jackson's, Herschel Walker's, Tebow, Lamar Jackson, RG3, all these guys, Peter Ward, like all these guys that won the Heisman before. Shout out to them. Reggie Bush is reinstalled as a voter now. So shout out to them. But yeah, I think Travis Hunter gets the Heisman, but I would not be upset if it went to Ashton Jeanty because what he did in college football is unprecedented. They start the playoffs next week for college football. It starts up next week, so I'll talk about the college football matchups. Then I want to talk about Week 15 playoff power rankings. I do have an article up right now. It's my top 15. I just want to go over the top 10 players, or top 10 teams, excuse me, for this award. I could call it an award. It's my award. It's the LU Bugging Awards for the top 14 teams that's in the playoffs currently. So 14, I have Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who's leading the NFC South right now, with the Falcons going through their little drop off. So at 14 is Tampa Bay. At 13, Washington Commanders. They stay there. They haven't moved. And they still got a slim lead over the Rams for that 7th seed in the NFC. 12 is Denver Broncos. 11 is the Chargers. But basically, all of the playoff spots are kind of locked in. You kind of know who's going to get it. San Francisco, I'm counseling out. But the top 10, in my opinion, goes Seattle is number 10. Number 9, I'm putting Houston Texans. Last week, sorry for the typo, sorry for the confusion. Call it whatever you want. I put in the Ravens above Houston. I'm putting the Ravens at number 8. Both of them were on buys last week. Seattle won their game, and they get Sunday Night Football. Like I said, follow me on Twitter at Al_U_bugging. You put that ticker back up there on Al_U_bugging. Follow me on X, man. We're going to have some fun Sunday night. Seven, I'm putting the Green Bay Packers. I love what their front four is bringing. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs. Love that whole squad. 7 is Green Bay. 6. Lord. Minnesota Vikings, who's currently the 5th seed at 11-2. That sounds crazy to me, but they're the 5th seed at 11-2. Basically, if they win, they're in this week, and they play the Bears. Well, I'm giving them the number 6 spot. Number 5, I'm giving Pittsburgh Steelers. Their offense has played well with Russell Wilson, and actually played great. I'm not even going to short saying they played great with Russell Wilson there. Again, they had a matchup with Philly, so I'm putting them at 5 this week. Buffalo, after that loss, they were number 2. I dropped them down to number 4 after that loss to the Rams. But they got the Lions this week. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. At number 3, I got the Kansas City Chiefs, 12-1. They clinched their division, the number 1 seed. They can't clinch the AFC just yet, but they pretty much have it. If Buffalo happens to lose one more time, since Buffalo do have the tiebreaker head-to-head over Kansas City just needs to win next week against the Texans, and they will lock up the conference if Buffalo were to lose to the Lions this week. And assuming the Chiefs beat the Browns this week, obviously. Number 2, Philly. Like I said, birds of a feather flock together. They beat my squad. I ain't got no ill will. They clinched their playoff spot last week, and they have a 97% chance of winning their division. Second best team in the league to me. Offense, defense, offensive line, running back, the best running back, MVP caliber running back, offensive player of the year, definitely. If they try to, snide him and give the MVP to Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley is offensive player of the year. But Saquon Barkley, if he breaks the record, I think he's number one in the MVP votes. And number one team in the NFL, Detroit Lions. They got that playoff spot, 75% chance of winning the number one seed in the NFC. Only reason this division is not locked up is because the Vikings have 2 losses and the Packers have 3. Other than that, Detroit Lions has been playing hands down the best football all year. 11-1, no question. Well, 12-1. Sorry, 12-1. Only lost 1 game. Easily, Detroit Lions is the best team in football to me. Number one offense, great defense, even though the defense is hurt. Great offensive line, best backfield tandem, amazing. Number one team is the Detroit Lions. All right, so go to athleticallychallengemag.com. You see it there. I'm going to talk about the games that's coming on and give you my picks this week. But you can see all the picks, all the games there of how I'm picking them this week. But to start it off, like I said, the Rams won yesterday. At the 1 o'clock window, you got my Birds playing against the Giants. Not going to spend too much time on that. Ravens go out there, they execute, they do what they're supposed to be doing, and they go home with a dub. You had 2 weeks to prepare for the Giants. Not saying nothing because it's an NFL team, but you had 2 weeks to prepare for the Giants. You have the best odds this week, the highest point spread. There's absolutely no reason for the Giants for the Ravens to not beat the Giants. So I'm not even going to spend time on that game. The game at 1 o'clock that makes the biggest difference in playoffs is Miami Dolphins, who's fighting to get back to that 7th seed, and Houston Texans, who's currently the 4th seed. Miami has struggled, especially on the road, especially with teams over 500 in the month of December. So this game for Tua for Miami is of uber importance. They win, they got a good shot at the number 7 seed because the Colts got to play the Broncos. One of them two is going to be fighting each other, knocking them out, whatever. They could make space for Miami to come up there because they're all bunched in at that 6 or 7 point right now. Houston Texans, they win this game, they pretty much lock up their division. Especially, like I said, the Colts and the Broncos are fighting each other this week at 425. So Miami versus Houston is the number 1 matchup at 1 o'clock. And then 425, I have no idea why one of these games was not flexed. The Buffalo Bills are playing the Detroit Lions, as I mentioned. Both teams are fighting for that number 1 spot in their conference. So this should be a potential Super Bowl matchup. It's actually one of the teams that I have going to the Super Bowl. And if I wasn't cheering for the Ravens to win or the Chiefs to win, honestly speaking, I could see Buffalo being the team that represents the AFC. So this could definitely be a Super Bowl prediction or a Super Bowl pick. I think it was my Super Bowl prediction last year, if I'm not mistaken. That's at 425. Again, Buffalo got to bounce back because they was dominated in the run game against the Rams last week. And you playing against the best backfield. Sonic and Knuckles is definitely going to go off for Detroit. So they got to tighten up. But I'm picking Detroit to win that one. Pittsburgh and Philly. Man, shout out to them Birds. Again, I'm going with Philly in this matchup. But it could be a potential Super Bowl matchup, the battle for Pennsylvania. I'm going with Philly. I'm riding with Philly on this one. At 425. And then again, follow me on X at Al_U_bugging. You see the ticker. I done said it like 5 times. You know what's going on. I'm live tweeting for this game, the Packers versus the Seahawks. I have no dog in this fight, so it's just going to be fun. Join me over there on X. I'm not going to say who I got in that game. Monday night, we got 2 Monday Night Football matchups. The first one is a divisional matchup. Minnesota Vikings is hosting the Chicago Bears. Bears is all but eliminated. I believe they are technically eliminated from the playoffs, but they pretty much all but eliminated at this point. But the Vikings, they're 11-2. They're fighting. They can still win their division if Buffalo beats. If Buffalo beats Detroit in the late afternoon game and the Vikings win, they will still have the same record. I think Detroit has the tiebreaker, but Vikings can't afford to lose this game. And Detroit got the best running back combo. Minnesota got the best wide receiver combo with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. So that game is going to be fun. And then also Monday night at 8:30, you have the Falcons trying to get off of their snide. They haven't won a game in a month. And they're trying to do this against the Vegas Raiders. If they lose to Las Vegas, if they're trailing to Las Vegas at the half, Kirk Cousins was a 1-year rental. Just count your losses now. So 1-year rental, you got the rookie, you got your player of the future. He's not as young as most typical rookies come out, and he's definitely a lot more polished and a lot more poised than typical rookies. I will put Michael Penix in the game if the Falcons are trailing the Raiders, who have no quarterback at this point. If they're trailing them at halftime, I'm putting Mike in. Mike is definitely going to be my quarterback for that half and the rest of this year. Because the Falcons are, as we stand, the Falcons are out of the playoffs. So what the hell else you have to lose? So I will go with that. But like I said, go to athleticallychallengemag.com for the rest of my picks. Not going to hold you too much longer tonight. Nothing else I really want to get into. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live broadcast right now. Like I said, follow Al U Bugging on X and Instagram at Al_U_bugging. Follow alubugging.blogspot.com for my power rankings. And most of the other writings are going to be on the Athletically Challenged magazine. Shout out to Digital for the collab with that. Be blessed. Be productive. Be more. Love you. I'm out of here.